Not So Average Builder is sponsored by USAGundamStore.com, bringing the hobby to your front door. Use promo code NOTSOAVERAGE and get 10% off your next order. Today we're going to work on thinning paints for your airbrush. Hey guys, Tom here, and this is Not So Average Builder. Now I know a lot of you are thinking airbrushes are dumb, or they're too expensive, or they're too ridiculous. Yes, they are expensive to start off with, even for a subpar one like, you know, most of those kits are. You're at least $100 for a semi-decent airbrush and a compressor. It's not a cheap thing, but boy is it worth it. Now the second thing that I see the most of is I can't get my paints to run through an airbrush. Any paint is capable of being run through an airbrush. It just depends on how much you thin it. You could even run craft paint through an airbrush, but it has to be thinned meticulously in order to get it to run, which isn't that big of a deal, but it's just something that I think that everyone needs to learn, and the only way you're really going to learn, even with this video, is by doing it. That's the only downside with airbrushing or painting in general. You need to just practice. So with this video, I'm going to kind of show you how I learned, and by accident, but how I learned how to thin my paints for an airbrush. Before we get into that though, I want to say, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, what are you doing? Please consider subscribing. I'm at 452 subs. That's amazing. Like, holy crap, I'm humbled, and it's all because of you guys. I can't thank you all enough. It's amazing. I'm going to do another giveaway at 600 subs. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do yet, but I think because it's going to be a pretty decent sized one, I'm going to do a pretty decent sized giveaway. So keep that in mind. Let's talk about Patreon. I now have 3. Yep, it went up. I have 3 patrons. And I want to say thank you to those. You have Walter, Chris D, and Fiddlesworth Frank for being awesome patrons of the channel. If you would like to become a patron of Not So Average Builder, go to patreon.com/NotSoAverageBuilder and sign up. Plenty of different tiers, and all of the money made in that goes directly back into the channel. But enough rambling on about that, let's hop into this. Alright. So I'm going to show you how to take this product in particular and properly thin your paints for airbrushing. So I found this stuff a while back. A lot of modelers use it, and I know that Vallejo makes flow improver, they make airbrush thinner, they make airbrush cleaner, and I've been using this stuff right here to thin down my paints flawlessly for the past couple of months. I did have some issues to begin with, and that was because I would pour the paint in first and then fill it the remainder with the airbrush foam improver. And you can do this, but it does create some issues because then your paint goes down to the bottom of the pot and it's hard to get that stuff out, and sometimes that can create clogs, especially if it's a thicker paint. So what I like to do, and this is what I literally found out by accident, I had been doing the paint first, then the flow improver, and I messed up and I put the flow improver in first, and I thought, well, what the heck, I'll give it a shot. Poured this in, mixed it up, and it was the smoothest airbrushing I'd done in a long time. So I'm going to show you exactly what I did, which I kind of explained it just then, but I'll give you a visual reference of how I thin and continue to thin my paints for airbrushing. So let's hop right in. Alright, so we're going to take our flow improver and we're going to make a bed in the airbrush pot. And what I always do is I take about half of whatever I need as far as the amount of paint, and I fill it up to that point. Then you're going to take your paint, in this case it's the blue raspberry from Turbodork, and I'm going to fill it up the rest of the way. Now it doesn't have to be exact 50-50, but get it as close as you possibly can. Then you're going to take your paintbrush or your old paintbrush that you use to mix things, and you're going to mix it up in the pot. Then we're also going to do what I just did there is a backflow technique. So you cover the front of the nozzle on your airbrush and you squeeze down like you're releasing paint, and that actually pushes paint back in there, kind of percolates it a little bit. And then you're going to do your really thin coats. With any acrylic paint, you always want to do it in thin layers. You just don't want to slop it on. It was really prevalent with the Turbodork paints because these things needed, and I mean needed, thinner applications. So I think I did 3 to 5 thin coats on this. And I've kind of sped this up so it makes it go a little quicker. But you'll see that in between, some of it looks like I'm not putting any paint down, and that's because I'm just kind of flashing it off with the airbrush. No paint, just air. And I keep going back and forth, building up my layers. And again, this is sped up, so it does look a lot quicker. But that's as simple as it is. Just keep doing it in light, misty coats. But as you can see, it's super smooth, it is super easy, and this is the remixed version of their paints, and it required a little more flow improver, but it wasn't much. And look how smooth that is. It's completely smooth. Now we're going to try it with another one. This is one of their older styles. This is the Darknet, and it was thinner out of the pot, so you don't need as much flow improver on these. But same principle, 3 to 5 thin coats. On this color, it was kind of hard to tell because, I mean, it's kind of like a dark green, brown almost. So we'll just kind of fast forward through this. But this kind of shows you that it doesn't matter the paint, it doesn't matter the mixing material that they've used. Flow improver works really well. It's amazing, it's simple, it's effective, and it does the job really well. And now I'm doing the color Afterburner. I meant to put a video card up showing what color, but that's not a big deal. This is a very flake heavy paint, and no matter what I did, you could see the flakes. Isn't a big deal. It kind of went with the whole scheme that I was going for, but usually with flake heavy paints like this, it clogs up a lot because they stick to the tip of the needle and it doesn't want to come out. But even with flow improver, this stuff laid down like it was glass. So that just shows you right there that even a very pigment heavy or whatever paint can be tamed very easily with flow improver. Now you'll see here in a minute, I'm going to do a cool little technique. Now on this guitar there are flames, and I wanted those flames to be different colors than the guitar. Now normally you could just mask all this stuff off and paint it, and that's a nightmare to mask off all these little details. So what I did was just very, very, very light amount of paint, very low pressure. This is one of the few times that I actually adjust the pressure on my compressor. But just spray it in there and keep it as tight as possible, and I didn't get any overspray. It was amazing. So when you run into situations like this, it's an easy fix. You just end up going back through with your base coat and hand brushing in the details, so that way it picks them out. That was a simple thing. But as this video wraps up to a close, I just wanted to say, definitely push yourself. Don't stop or don't give up because you think that something is too difficult. I promise you there are tons of videos out there, not even just mine, but there are tons of videos out there showing you what you can and cannot do, but definitely give it a shot. And you can see here how awesome it looks in a very short amount of time. But that is all I've got today, guys. Have a good one. Bye.